Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We're clearing out the waiting room and we'll begin momentarily. So again, thank you for joining us and looking forward to taking you through today's program. Good afternoon, everyone. Again, we're just clearing out the waiting room. People are filing in as we speak, and we'll get going momentarily.
Hi, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone. Mr. Powell, we have to keep meeting like this.
Yeah, that's, I'd like to keep it up. So thank you for joining us again, Mr. Mayor.
My pleasure. Good to see you. Cassandra, great to see you. All the other, Michael Guyette, who else? Hi.
All right, everybody, we'll get going here in about 15 seconds, getting the last few in, and then we'll get this show on the road. All right, that felt like 15 seconds to me, so we'll get going here. So good afternoon and welcome to the Digital Upskill webinar. My name is Scott Powell. I'm the Executive Vice President for the Greater Sacramento Economic Council. Also, I had the privilege of being the Greater Sacramento Economic Council's program manager, for this program. So something that's very near and dear to my heart. From creating it to fruition, it's been a great thing to work on, and honestly, a highlight of my professional career. And we've got a great program for you today. We're going to be discussing our digital upskill program that we did with the City of Sacramento. And we have a panel with the Wall Street Journal economics reporter. And we'll be addressing the importance of helping digital upskill workers after COVID-19 pandemic and in some of the hardest hit communities of what it means to them. So please note today's program is being recorded. If you do have any questions during the program for our panelists, please use the chat function. We will address it hopefully during it, and we do have some time for Q&A at the very end as well. So with that, it is my distinct pleasure to introduce the Mayor of Sacramento, Darrell Steinberg. Mr. Mayor, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you so much, Scott. It's really an honor to be here. I want to welcome all of you and have the opportunity to talk about one of the silver linings during the past difficult, challenging, tragic 16 months in our country and in our Sacramento community. We were lucky as a city. We are a growing city. We are a capital city. We have deliberately and purposefully changed the direction and arc of our city over the past 10 years by deciding that while we are a proud center of public service as a capital city, that's no longer enough. We are building a high-wage, clean private sector economy in Sacramento, from technology to innovation to clean energy to electric vehicles, to tourism, to arts and culture. We are rapidly changing. And we are also a region where 34,000 people from the Bay Area came to Sacramento during the pandemic to live because of our quality of life and our relatively less expensive cost of living. As we build this modern economy, we are partnering as a city government with our private sector partners led by the organizations that are sponsoring this event today, the Greater Sacramento Urban League and the Greater Sacramento Economic Council. And we are also changing the role of city government. For the role of city government has traditionally been to provide basic services, public safety services, and and to fund the libraries and the parks and all the basics that the people rightfully expect. That's still a core priority, but we have expanded on what we consider to be core priorities by investing directly in our neighborhoods, in our communities, and in what we call inclusive economic development. We have spent $200 million over the last 32 months directly in our community for job creation, workforce training, youth, affordable housing, and homelessness, and we are just beginning. When we were awarded $89 million by the federal government through the CARES Act funding in 2020, we had two choices. We could have legally spent the money on filling a lot of budget holes to ensure that we could continue providing those basic services, or we could invest the lion's share of it directly in inclusive economic development in our community. We found other appropriate and creative ways to fill our budget holes. We invested $80 million of this into the community in 4 categories: in workforce training and youth, in affordable housing and homelessness, in small business, and in tourism and the emerging creative economy. And one of the most significant investments we made was to the Digital Upskill Sacramento Program, where we decided, as we are creating more jobs in the digital and technology arenas, that we have got to make sure that our people, especially from our disadvantaged neighborhoods, are educated, trained, and first in line for those jobs. Partnering with the Urban League and GSAC, our Economic Council, we put forward, I believe it was less than $1 million. We had 5,000 applicants for 40 available slots. We met all the national industry standards. We engaged with the General Assembly and Merit America, who both have successful track records delivering high quality immersive instructions. It was make complicated issues basic and simple. Program participants received a laptop, a stipend to provide internet, $400 per week over 9 weeks, a completion stipend of $1,800, and a digital certificate, a badge, in either IT support or advanced data analytics. You don't always have to go to a college or a university to get a certification that enables you to qualify for a high-wage job. The program was a great success. 37 out of the 40 students completed the program. Many were placed into jobs. The average earnings are more than $47,000 a year, adding $1 million in payroll, and the beginning of career pathways for 37 of our Sacramento residents. We're grateful for the collaboration here. The city provided the money, but it was the Urban League, it was GSAC, it was Merit America, and it was General Assembly who really drove the success here. A huge thanks to the many employers who hired these students. You're going to hear from Michael Guyette, the president and CEO of VSP, and Manveer Sandhu, the CEO and co-founder of Zenify, who will speak about what it means to their companies and to the future of our economy to hire these students. We look forward to a great discussion here. I again am privileged to have the opportunity to kick us off today, but let's get going. I hope you will end this hour feeling as inspired as I have been in seeing this success. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Steinberg. And now I'd like to introduce our moderator for today's panel's discussion, Sarah Chaney Cambon, who works with the economics team with a focus on covering economic data and its implication for everyday life with the Wall Street Journal. Sarah, the group is yours.
Great, thanks so much for having me today. Like you mentioned, I'm an economics reporter at the Wall Street Journal. I'm based in Washington, DC. I focus specifically on the labor market, and at the beginning of the pandemic was writing a lot about unemployment insurance, have increasingly been covering kind of the economic recovery and what that has been shaping up to look like, with just all sorts of different job opportunities for people, but then kind of like supply chain disruptions and all of that. So before we get started, I wanted to remind everyone that we will have a Q&A portion at following all the questions. And so if you have a question for one of our panelists, you can just drop that right into the chat box, and then we'll get to that at the end. To open things up, I wanted to go around and have our panelists introduce themselves, starting with Michael Guyette, the president and CEO at VSP Global.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Mike Guyette, the president and CEO of VSP Global. We're one of the largest private sector employers in the Greater Sacramento area. And I'm also the chair of the Greater Sacramento Economic Council, and I am really proud of this program. I'm glad to be here today, so thank you for the invitation.
Great, thanks. And next we'll go to Cassandra Jennings.
Yes, hi, thank you. Again, Cassandra Jennings, President and CEO of the Greater Sacramento Urban League. The Urban League works with adults and youth to help them achieve economic self-reliance. So we educate, empower, and employ in underserved communities so they can have opportunities like the one that we're going to talk about. And I'm also pleased to be on the GSAC board with Michael, Barry, and others as well. Thank you for having me today.
Great, thank you. And next is Lisa Lewin.
Hi, everyone. It's great to be here today. My name is Lisa Lewin. I'm the CEO of General Assembly. We are a global upskilling and reskilling company whose programs enable individuals and organizations around the world to grow and compete and thrive in the digital economy. We focus on really in-demand skills like data, design, business, and tech. And we couldn't be prouder to be a partner in this great initiative in Sacramento. Thanks.
Great, thank you. And lastly, we have Rebecca Tabor.
Hi, folks. Rebecca. I'm co-CEO of Merit America. We're a nonprofit that prepares low-wage workers for in-demand careers, and our programs are really designed to work for people who work. So we meet people where they are, whether they're in and out of the workforce or juggling gig work, whatever it may be, to give them a chance and a path to really get the skills they need to get a great new career with upward mobility and family-sustaining wages. We're really proud of this partnership and excited to share more about everything we learned through the process of generating over $1 million in wage gains for great citizens of Sacramento.
Great, thank you all so much. So let's launch right into the questions here. Starting off, I wanted to make sure that our audience was really familiar with kind of how this program came together. So I was hoping, Cassandra, you could start us off by just talking about all the key players that were involved and kind of describe the collaboration that was required to execute this program.
Sure, and as you heard the mayor, as he did the introduction, it was real important that the collaboration was there. Otherwise, it was going to be the same, and the results were going to be the same. So it really took the pandemic for us to really receive those resources from the city. So the city was really key. And as the mayor mentioned, they could have used the money for many other things, but he knew the importance of inclusive economic development, and he certainly put his walk with his talk, and he and the city council. So the first important collaborator and leader in this group was the city, and to be able to provide the necessary funds to implement the program. I'm going to say the second is then GSAC, the Greater Sacramento Economic Council, because they are really important to the key to the other end. They have the business community, the employers that can commit to really hiring the people, and also bringing the trainers, which would be the third component. And that's what we talked about and we'll hear more about with Merit America and General Assembly. They came with the expertise to really be able to train people, and in this case, pretty quickly, to get where we needed them to do for the jobs of the now and the future. Now, the final partner in the order that I'm talking about is us. We are on the ground nonprofit, local. And I think the importance with us being there is one with recruitment, being a trusted messenger for the under-resourced communities that we're trying to reach, and then to provide those wraparound services, those social and emotional kind of supports, as well as equipment and even a physical presence during the pandemic to be able to respond and serve the participants. And so with the holistic approach, we're really developing great talent that can be placed in jobs and then fuel our economy.
Great, thanks so much. And Rebecca, I was wondering if you could kind of walk us through how Merit America got connected with Sacramento and, just helped connect people to jobs.
Yeah, well, I think Cassandra said it well. It takes a village to make a program like this happen. And it's why we're so proud of this partnership, because it really felt like a place in the country where all of these pieces were coming together. And so I have to give a shout out to everyone on the call and the Urban League, especially for being that on the ground partner and helping us find participants who were ready for this kind of life transformation. We talk a lot about upskilling from the business perspective and how businesses need talent and we need governments to come together and fund it, but we don't talk a lot about the people, some of whom you'll hear from today, and what it takes to say at this moment in time, I'm going to dive into a really rigorous learning program. I'm going to carve out time from looking for a job or balancing gig work or my family, whatever else it might be, to get new skills and get into a great new career. So it takes all of that to happen. And at Merit America, we see ourselves as really bridging from when we have the people and we have the jobs, what happens in the middle? How do we get from folks who are interested in that life transformation and employers who need great diverse talent and actually get folks ready? And our big learning there is it's not just about the technical skills. The technical skills will get you in the door, but the professional skills are what are going to help you stay in the door and grow over time. So that's what our program does. We combine technical learning with really intrusive wraparound coaching so folks can understand what it's going to take to get a new job and succeed and grow over time.
Great, thank you both for those insights. Next, I'm wondering, why should cities in general consider creating these sorts of digital workforce training programs for underserved communities? Lisa, do you want to kick us off?
Sure. Well, I'd say, globally, the economic fallout has been felt by just about every metro area, but especially by what, in the US we would call kind of, second or third tier cities that even before the pandemic were struggling to compete with some of the, larger tech hubs in the fight to attract and retain talent. We have, incredible economic concentration with, over half of US GDP concentrated in just a couple dozen metros. And while this spring's job gains were decent and somewhat broad-based, there were still, several dozen metro areas that failed to add any jobs at all over the season. So, the road toward full labor market recovery in cities across the country is going to be a long and complicated one without really targeted workforce initiatives. And so by strengthening investments in workforce training and establishing these kinds of public-private partnerships, we can really start to close the skill gaps that on one side are preventing companies from hiring the talent they need, as well as providing workers access to industries that really offer long-term potential. And, as educators, as business decision makers, as policymakers, as civic leaders, we collectively have the best chance to help people, let's call it pandemic proof their careers by working collaboratively to provide really in demand digital skills training and by and in doing so more equitable career paths to communities everywhere. And lastly, I'll just say, cities and their leadership have an opportunity to become true labs of innovation right now, particularly in places like Sacramento, where you have, strong engagement and vision from elected officials and workforce organizations, and these tight linkages between, say, higher education and employers. And because that ecosystem infrastructure really is there, cities like Sacramento can really nimbly respond to these opportunities, provided that they can overcome the funding barriers to doing so, and they can, find partners, like, training providers like General Assembly and Merit America, who can really supplement and round out the exceptional work that local community colleges, local nonprofits, and local workforce system entities are offering.
Sure. Cassandra or anyone else, do you have thoughts on, why cities should consider creating something similar to what Sacramento did?
Well, if I could just add on to Lisa, I think they are the jobs of the digital world, and the IT jobs and the technical jobs. They are the jobs of the future and the now. So there are lots of jobs that are available. Oftentimes we go out of our communities to get the talent when we can grow the talent right here in your own community. Secondly, I think is that digital literacy, whether it's upskilling or otherwise, is involved in everything that we do now. And so we need to grow a community and educate them so that they're able to really function in many kinds of jobs, even if it's not in a digital sort of IT technical kind of opportunity. We chose to do this is because these jobs of the now and the future are higher paying jobs. They are careers, they are opportunities for people to support their families, themselves, and have their dreams come true. But thirdly, I think the reason why people should do it, because it's good business. I mean, the economy will grow, and we've had the Brookings report and other reports in our region that says, if you take care of those that are least among you, and especially in communities that are under-resourced, then you are fueling your economy even more than you would be otherwise. And so the fourth reason is because it's the right thing to do. We have people in our community, and I think these training programs show that you don't have to have a 4-year degree necessarily. You don't have to come from a certain background. You don't have to be a certain person. You just have the aptitude and the willingness and ability to get these jobs. And so if we're intentional about what we do in working with underserved communities, we can win and we can build our economy. So that's why cities need to do it. And I think the last thing I'll say about the collaboration is that as we're building a collaboration, we're building capacity. And so when we go to different cities, it's important that we all work together, because if we bring the talent, the knowledge in, and we take it out, we're left with the same thing we started with. But if we can come in and build the talent within the individuals and build capacity within organizations, whether it's the Urban League, whether it's other nonprofits, or whether it's even GSAC with connecting to nonprofits and the people on the ground, that's when cities really win and economies thrive.
Super interesting. I'm sure we'll hear more and more about workforce training programs, given that companies are in hiring mode again. And we're hearing a lot of complaints from companies about how it's hard to find workers. And it seems like a workforce training program is kind of a natural way to connect unemployed people to these jobs. Moving on to the next question. So how exactly do students land a job with this sort of program? And then what can employers do to support these students after they get hired and have completed the certificate? Michael, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, to build off of what you said, Sarah, where employers are hiring, it's getting harder to find workers. I think it's really important for organizations to understand programs like the Digital Upskill Program and how they create these non-traditional pathways into employment for people. And the pandemic rapidly digitalized our economy. And if you think about everything we've been doing since the pandemic started, just escalated or accelerated digital impact and how we work with each other. We've had to readjust some of our expectations about how we look at resumes and background and experience when it comes to education and training too. We can't always just be focused on on four-year undergrads or associate degrees. Secondly, it's critical that our companies, and when you think about the companies in our region, the hiring managers and recruiters that are out there, they have knowledge about these types of programs as new channels for employee recruitment. At our last webinar that was held in December, I invited our Chief Human Resource Officer and one of our senior recruiters to join the webinar, and I'm proud to say, because they became aware of the program, we were able to hire 6 graduates from the Digital Upskill program. Now, VSP, as I said, we're one of the largest private sector employers. We employ thousands of people here in the Sacramento area. And, our purpose is around empowering human potential through sight. And so there was such a great connection with the Digital Upskill program and how it really aligned with our idea of empowering individuals. So what I would say is, for employers in the region and employers in other cities, it's about the visibility into these type of programs and really connecting with the Greater Sacramento Economic Council or the Urban League. Cassandra has been a great partner through this, and I would just say to make sure that we understand how we can continue to support this program and other programs that might evolve.
I'll just add to that. I think the employers on this call and through this partnership, they get a lot of credit, because it's actually not easy to step back and look at your hiring practices and say, you know what, we've been hiring traditionally for folks who have 4-year degrees, for folks who have graduate degrees for these roles. And we're actually going to put that on pause and say, let's look at new partners and let's look at non-traditional talent and really shift from this, candidly, degree discrimination that says if you don't have that piece of paper, you don't get a fair look, to really skills-based hiring and saying, what can you do and what does this role need, and how do we create an environment where talent, wherever they come from, has a chance to succeed.
Yeah,
Thanks
Rebecca, I
for
would
those
agree. I
insights.
mean, as we looked at our own hiring practices, to get connected to a program like this really mattered. And when I talked to some of the people that we hired, just the way they came into the organization and how they're really growing inside the organization already in just a short period of time is amazing.
I'd love to jump in for just a second and introduce myself. I'm Janet Larson. I'm representing Zenify today. Manbear had an unexpected conflict. And I'd love to just reiterate some of the things that have been said. That non-traditional path into technology is really essential to the future of all of our business models. And it builds loyalty. When you can support somebody, help them on a trajectory to success within your organization and into the future, it builds so much loyalty, which you are sometimes missing in the rest of your more traditional workforce. And that also is incredibly valuable to the business.
Yeah, and if I could just add real quickly, I think for the community we serve is about access, availability, and opportunity. And I think what you see from the business community, and Michael exemplifying that, is that they are providing access, availability, and certainly opportunity for the people that we serve.
Thanks for those thoughts, everyone. So we know that the labor market, a lot of jobs today are increasingly demanding that most workers have, some tech skills, some digital skills, and some jobs require, more advanced skills than others, obviously. So how does a program like Sacramento Digital Upskill prepare workers to have those skills when they're searching for jobs? And if Lisa or Rebecca, if you want to get us started.
Sure, I'm happy to pop in. So, you're quite right to talk about sort of the macro trends here. The pandemic only fueled trends that were already really underway, from the uptick in remote work and remote learning to the demand for digital skills. And it also really amplified some of the deep disparities in access to educational and professional opportunities. In addition, the demand for digital skills has, continued to trend upward. both pre-pandemic and post-pandemic. Before going into sort of COVID, a tight labor market and a tight supply shortage meant that companies were really sort of poaching skilled talent, creating kind of a war for talent that was driving up salaries and recruiting fees. And, today, while a lot of sort of job categories have shrunk or gone away, demand for tech skills has really only grown, both basic job skills as well as advanced, or basic technology skills as well as advanced technical skills, as you were describing. And that's accelerating only as the world continues to conduct more and more of its life online. And so, that is why our focus is really about creating a steady stream of diverse, net new digitally skilled talent, to kind of expand that pool to address that unmet need while also creating meaningful opportunities for adults that are really struggling to make their way in the world of work. And we do that with this, very, very intense focus on some of the things that, you probably heard us, already heard us talk about today. One is these really strong cross-sector partnerships. So partnering with, change makers like the ones on this call from, locally from inside the community, as well as those, like Merit and GA from, that are used to operating at scale. And adding in some things, that we sort of focus on, which is, really rigorous training, reskilling workers and ensuring that we're really equipping them with sort of job readiness and in-demand skills through, our kind of high quality tech ed programs. And then really, really focusing on outcomes, right? Not sort of seat hours or anything else, but truly focusing on the outcome, which is, the career opportunity and the job opportunity that's sort of coming out, that the people coming out of these programs certainly expect, having gone through them. So one last note that I'll make is that, we, over the course of the pandemic and also coming out of it, it's interesting, we continue to see increases in demand for career changing programs. Certainly in COVID, it was from people in industries that were really hard hit, by the pandemic, music and entertainment, restaurant and hospitality, to name a couple. And what's interesting is that some of these jobs are coming back, not all, but many jobs are actually coming back. But the massive disruption of the last year really resulted in a lot of workers making the choice to sort of permanently change fields, right? To pursue higher wage, less volatile opportunities with longer term growth potential. And so, as the economy evolves and as employer needs for these types of skills grows, as it will continue to really create and build, high quality digital and tech education and training to really meet those needs.
That's a really interesting point, and I'm wondering if, so is this program, is it mainly for placing people in tech jobs, or is it kind of this idea that you could be in a leisure and hospitality type of job, a restaurant job, and be equipped with tech skills? I don't know what that would look like in a restaurant job per se, but yeah, can someone speak to that?
I mean, I'll hop in and at least get the answer round started. I mean, what you're really speaking to, Sarah, is, it's an interesting question and we get it a lot, which is, are you training people for the tech industry? Are you training people to work for tech companies? And the answer is yes, and. We're training people to work in any job and every job that requires digital and tech skills. And the percentage of jobs that do require that is growing exponentially, including in jobs like retail, including jobs like restaurant and hospitality and entertainment. Again, even before the pandemic, you are seeing the mass digitization, automation of work. Right? I'll use a phrase that is a very, very popular one in the lexicon of those of us in the field of workforce that we haven't used yet. But there's a lot of talk about the future of work, and part of the future of work is that you know, so many jobs, if they're not being automated completely, they certainly are coming to require, you know, everything from basic digital skills all the way to advanced skills. So when we say that we're training people to be employable and to have career and job resilience, we certainly aren't stopping at, you know, training people just for quote unquote tech industry jobs. We're training people to be employable across industries, and increasingly that means having digital skills.
Yes, Sarah, if I could also add to that, I would say almost every job at VSP, and we're a vision care company. We sell vision insurance, we make eyewear, we work through brokers, work with clients, work with doctors. And virtually every job at VSP has to have some kind of digital and tech skill. And I can give you an example of that. As one of the hires that joined us is actually a client broker representative. And so using their training from the Digital Upskill Program, you know, has helped this person support some of our brokers out in the field that sell our products. And you know, that goes beyond just the digital and tech skill components of that. And I think some, you know, as I talked to the 6 people that we hired, there are 2 other themes that came out beyond just digital, you know, digital and technical skills. And those two common themes, one of those is around the soft skills that they learned through the program. And, you know, it was mentioned a little earlier, but just things like, you know, preparing for their job, preparing a resume, tips on giving a good interview, email and meeting etiquette. I heard that a couple of times from some of the hires that we brought on. Presentation and communication skills, or how to, you know, personally, you know, be resourceful and seek out ongoing training. Although some of the people that we hired have only been on board for a few months, they're already, you know, reaching into the organization looking for other training opportunities, and then hopefully continuing to build their career at VSP. The second thing that I heard from people that I would say is probably just as valuable as all the other skills that they learned, and it is a the soft side of people's career and you know, career development and getting a job, and it's around confidence. You know, everybody I talked to had a personal confidence that they gained through the program. And there are some people who, you know, had decades of experience on the tech side, but just needed to brush up on some of the latest skills. And, you know, technology continues to advance at a rapid pace. And, you know, that person needed, you know, or just wanted some additional, you know, training to kind of move him into the next level. You know, a few of them have parents, they're parents of young kids, and they've been out of the job market for a little bit. So to have that confidence to go back into the job market, and this program helped them do that. So I would just say, you know, the program's, you know, a combination of technical and soft skill training, and it gave each of the graduates, at least the ones I've been exposed to, this confidence. They didn't say that to me. I just saw it and felt it as I was talking with them. And some of them just wanted to pursue a new, fresh start. And it's just great for me to have people like that inside our organization. I could tell they're all motivated and excited to be working at VSP, and I know they're going to, you know, they'll contribute and hopefully have long careers with us.
Yeah, and if I could just, Michael and Lisa are right on the mark. I think the only thing that I could add is that you're right, life happens. Life was happening as they were going through the training program. Somebody had a baby, somebody had, you know, and they kept with it. And so there are lots of things that we were able to support, including building that confidence. And that's why you need all the village to really support and meet people where they are. The other thing I wanted to say is that you may recall that Mayor Steinberg said that there were 5,000 people that applied, and everybody didn't make it through, right? Everybody wasn't ready. Some were ready and didn't get it through. So that's the importance. But people were at different levels. And what we found is some of them may need digital 1.0 first before they go to either Merit America or either General Assembly for their programs. but the digital literacy is important. And what we try to require everybody who comes through, whether they're going for a medical assistance program or digital upskilling, to take that training and certainly increase it. And if you need to start with 1.0, let's get to 2.0 or 4.0, and then get placed in jobs, because everything requires that. Kids at home, schooling, ordering, everything requires digital literacy.
Great. And just a reminder to the audience, if you have any questions, drop them in the chat and we'll get to them in just a couple of minutes. So I'm wondering, what were some of the biggest challenges with implementing this program, the Sacramento Digital Upskill Program, and then how did you overcome them? Rebecca or Cassandra, do you want to speak to that?
I'll let Rebecca start.
Yeah, well, and it actually ties to a point I wanted to make from that last thread, which is I think one of the challenges of partnerships in general like this is people look at it, and maybe our attendees here today are looking and saying, but does this really scale? All right, this is great. You did this for a couple dozen folks. How do we take this to scale? And I think what's great is that if you can work through the challenges, which I'll name, we actually really believe there's a model here that is replicable at massive scale. General Assembly operates at scale. Merit America is reaching thousands of people across the country. And so what does it take to bring this together? It really takes just being really thoughtful of how are we going to find the people who can benefit? There are thousands of people who are interested in this program. There are 53 million low-wage workers in the country right now. There's no shortage of people who are looking for opportunities like this, but it's getting those right partnerships in place, those channel partnerships with trusted local community partners to spread the word. Merit America, one of our favorite fun facts is there's a whole Reddit thread saying, is Merit America a scam? Because people think it sounds too good to be true, which we laugh about, but that's a real problem. It's a problem if the first time you hear about it, you think it's a scam. It can't possibly be true that I can, get skills in such a short time without quitting my day job for a great new career. And so having those trusted partnerships on the ground, whether in Sacramento or any, city or town across the country, are so critical for raising awareness in a trusted way. And then on the back end, having employers who are really committed to doing that hard work of looking at their practices and saying, yes, we have a huge demand for these roles that offer great salaries and upward mobility. And what we really need are XYZ skills. We don't need the piece of paper. We need these skills, and just being clear about communicating that. So I think the biggest challenges can be, how do you find people and how do you break down the barriers at employers that historically lead them to be overlooked? But if you can do that, you've got providers who are capable of scale. We have governments that are receiving funding to do this with more funds than they've ever had before. And so models like these can, I think, work all over the country.
And I think I totally agree with Rebecca. Let me just add a couple of things. Is I think as we were in lightning speed. So that was certainly a challenge for us under these circumstances, but we didn't skip a beat thanks to GSAC and all the partners being deliberate. I think another thing was to make the intentionality pure. And what I mean by that is easy to forget why we really wanted to serve and reach under-resourced community, because everybody was many people were impacted by the pandemic, but we were able to continue to really carry each other, to remember the intentionality and the purpose. And particularly with the businesses is I'm sure it hasn't been easy, but they knew the purpose of the program. They valued the program and the skills that were gained, and they saw it through. So I think that was a challenge in the beginning because we were doing something a little different. And then on the ground, it was sort of about making sure people had the proper equipment, that they had broadband access. It was an affordability issue that we eliminated all of that because of the city's support and funding. We got them a computer, we got them the right kind of screen, we got them this, we got them that. We were able to make it so that they could be successful in their carry out on their own. So, and then we talked about the basic literacy. So again, 40 people made it through, 40 minus 5,000 minus 40. We were serving those others, putting them into giving them those soft skills, redirecting them, holding them on for the next round, and everything in between. So the challenges were there, but I think as a team and as a collaborative, we overcame those. And to Rebecca's point, what's next?
Well, Cassandra, as you know, what has to happen too is these people have to get hired, and that's where the business community needs to step up. And I want to commend you and Barry and others who pushed, a number of people in the community to really pay attention to the program, because so often these programs just get kind of lost in kind of just the the everyday world, and we just to have that highlighted the way it was, and to have champions out there is absolutely critical.
Wondering also if the duration of the programs proves to be a challenge or obstacle at all. If these are, typically 6 or 8 week programs, is that enough time? And then kind of as a follow up to that, like at what point does it become kind of the employer's responsibility to continue that sort of training?
Well, I'm going to say, I don't think any of us wanted to be that short, but we did that. And I think now we have an opportunity going forward to have a slightly different kind of pace. But I think from the employer side, we certainly want to make sure that we're preparing people for employment. And that could be the technical skills as well as the soft skills in dealing with any other issues that the participant may have.
Yeah, Sarah, I think even some of the participants felt like it could have gone a little bit longer for them, maybe another 3 or 4 more weeks. But again, this is the first time we got this launched here. I think we'll learn from it and continue to improve on it. And the fact that we had the success so far, I think we just need to, create more momentum from that.
I would agree. I think that our candidates who came to us, even in that short period of time, I think Michael mentioned it, they really gained confidence in their ability to learn, to acquire new skills. And that was like, we picked it up from there. We're ready to take somebody who knows how to learn and teach them. So I think the best thing that happened out of that program was the confidence and knowledge that they had the personal ability to engage.
And I see we have an audience question. Do you have recommendations on how we can implement programs like this in other cities? Are you aware of other cities offering similar programs? Can anyone answer that?
I can speak to that. So we're talking to a few other locations about how we can do programs like these. And again, I think it comes down to what we've said before. It's about getting the right community partners on the ground to help breed the trust and legitimacy and get these programs off the ground, and then the employers and the employer commitments and commitments to action. So we're speaking to a few cities around the country, and if any of them who we invited to this webinar are listening, it is possible. These programs work and they scale, but they take real partnership to say, we're not just going to put up a single web page and if we build it, they will come. We'll do the hard work to get the word out and make sure that the funding is there, the support is there, and that the goal is shared, not just by one party, but by a whole family of parties.
Yes. And I do know that they're in other cities. I know that the Urban League in Louisville, Kentucky, has participated with General Assembly, and maybe I'm not sure whether Merit America was also a part of that. But I will say I don't know where the other cities have addressed the affordability like this program has, because that is a real hurdle for communities to be able to access this and have the equipment and the resources they need. So again, I think this is a model for other cities to take note of.
I would agree, and thank you, Cassandra, for remembering and to giving a shout out to our work on the ground in Louisville. We have really focused on helping cities like Sacramento, like Louisville, like Atlanta, where we also are doing this work, like Buffalo, New York, where we're also doing this work. in collaboration with partners like the ones that are here on this webinar. You know, local employers and training partners, local education providers, and it is absolutely a scalable model. So much so that we're expanding this work with coalitions and partners like this to 10 more cities later this year and going into 2022. If there are those that are interested in reaching out to me or talking more about these community reskilling efforts, we're very easy to get in touch with communityreskilling@ga.co. But the real focus here is, and I think the big takeaway is, it does take a village. And regardless of who that coalition of partnerships ends up being with, you know, getting that full ecosystem approach is really what's required to make these things work and move from the talk to the walk.
Well, everybody, I want to say thank you so much, Sarah, for doing an amazing job of moderating this panel. Michael, Janet, Cassandra, you know, Lisa, and Rebecca, thank you for your time, your expertise, and you know, doing such a great job of representing this program. And you know, just great to see you know, just so many people out here talking about the importance of tech and skilling, which is going to be, you know, a topic probably for the next decade or longer. So I wish I could call for a round of applause, but that doesn't work in these type of environments. But for the team, thank you very much. And with that, it's my pleasure now to introduce the Greater Sacramento Economic Council's President and CEO, Barry Broom. There, are you with us? All right. You might be having some technical difficulties here. So, you know, with that, we're going to move on to our students and then maybe have Barry close us out. So with that, we have Alicia McHale and Lanells Chan, two of the graduates of our program, and you know, wanted to offer a few comments on their experience from enrolling in the program to finding employment.
Thank you, Scott. My name is Alicia McHale. I'm a graduate of both the Digital Upskill Partnership with Merit America and the Exemplify apprenticeship program, and I wanted to briefly touch on the impact that these two programs have had on me. Last year was hands down the hardest year of my life. I lost my job and my grandpa in a matter of 6 months to COVID. But it was around that time that I was watching the news and I heard about the Digital Upskill program. It offered weekly stipends, a free laptop, which was the first laptop I've ever owned, and a chance to obtain a Google IT support certificate in a matter of 9 weeks. So that's exactly what I did. I applied and I got in, and by Christmas, I gained my certification. I knew that this would open up so many doors for me, but I truly wasn't expecting an opportunity waiting for me at the start of the new year. On New Year's Eve, I was offered a spot in the Exemplify apprenticeship program. I started the cohort in January, passed my Salesforce admin exam in March, and in April, I received a full-time offer from Exemplify as a business systems analyst. I'm currently on my first project as a Salesforce consultant. As you can probably tell, this year completely transformed my career and life, but it didn't come without its fair share of self-doubt. I suffered from really heavy imposter syndrome, and with every approaching accomplishment, felt like life would eventually knock me back down in my place, as if I wasn't worthy for more. But I constantly overcame these emotions and used it to ignite a fire in me and accomplish things I once thought impossible. In doing so, I hope I paved the way for others to do the same. I wholeheartedly thank everyone who stood behind these programs and understands the importance of upskilling our workforce, not just for the recovery of our economy, but to shift the odds in favor of those that come from underserved communities. If you're watching this and it sounds like something you would like to do, but you don't think you can, I'm here to tell you that you can. The job opportunities are there. Programs like these are here to stay, And if you have the determination to learn, a strong sense of accountability and communication, and a progressive mindset, you too can thrive in programs like these and open the door to a whole new world of possibilities for your career, your family, and yourself. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. And it's hard to follow Alicia. Alicia's story is so amazing. So my name's Lanell. I'm actually a mother of two, born and raised here in Sacramento. Prior to COVID, I was actually growing in a role through the hotel industry. Like so many other industries, the hotel industry was severely hit by COVID. And unfortunately, my position was eliminated. There came a point where I just wasn't sure what I was going to do. I was sitting there with two young children going, how am I going to take care of them? And so my really good friend said to me, you know what you should be? I think you should be a programmer. And I said, you got to be kidding me. I can barely turn on my computer at work. There's no way. He actually found the advertisement for this digital upskilling program and said, I want you to apply. And when he did that, I said, okay, fine, I'm going to do it. And I would have never thought in a million years I would be accepted into a program like this. I was a participant for the program that was facilitated by General Assembly. And we learned amazing tools like SQL, Python, Tableau, things I would have never dreamed I would do in my lifetime. And while all of those skills were really great to learn, I have to say what I am most thankful for this program is the fact, and like many others have mentioned today, is that it gave me a newfound confidence, because when my position was eliminated, I had no idea what I was going to do. And I had no confidence that I was going to be able to pivot into some new industry, let alone a tech industry. So with that confidence boost and with the encouragement of my instructors, I really focused on networking my way through and trying to get in front of recruiters and show them, hey, I've got these amazing skills. Yes, I'm not an expert at them, but I have a great foundation and I have great soft skills from my hotel experience, and I would love to meld the two together. Luckily, I spoke to a recruiter who was all in and understood, hey, I am not a data scientist. I am not the most tech savvy person ever. But because I was able to go through this program, what it showed them was that I was gritty enough to learn or to be able to pick these things up really fast. I've been in my current role for about a month, and the resilience that I've shown and the ability to be able to talk to people and ask questions is what my employer has said has made me a shooting star. And I know that this wouldn't have happened if I didn't gain that confidence that I gained through this program. So I really thank everyone from the bottom of my heart for allowing me to participate in this.
Okay, well, you've heard of two graduates. So just as a quick wrap up, as you can see, all success requires an alignment from a lot of people. So my chairman, Michael Guyette, which brought a lot of credibility as an employer to this, Cassandra's leadership, Mayor Steinberg, and of course, Merit America and General Assembly. I think if you look at what's going on in our country right now, we've really been talking about an awakening of our own culture and subconscious racial bias and white privilege. And, how do we put these divisions behind us? And I think the alignment is we see each other and ourselves. So in our community, if someone's coming from an underserved background, why aren't they the CEO of the Greater Sacramento Economic Council? Why aren't they the CEO of VSP? There's too many people in the system that will see them moving forward, but keeping them down at the same time. And I was a leadership development coordinator at a youth build site in the poorest part of Cleveland, Ohio, for quite a few years. And there was a woman named Dorothy Stoneman who's got a pretty good national reputation that trained me. One of the things that she taught me is people live up to your expectations. So if people are coming out of prison reform, or if people have lost their job due to COVID, if people have had a hard time gaining skills, they need us to see them for the potential that they have. You know, the civic and community leadership has to see them in an inspired way. And you heard both these two graduates struggle with their own inspiration, but they had the courage to keep going forward. So what I loved about this is the expectation was to provide the best training to people, to give them access to the same kind of training expertise that goes on at Google or Microsoft or VSB or Chase. They weren't given a substandard training experience. They were giving a high level training experience. And then connected to that high level training experience was an expectation of a certification. And then after that certification, an expectation of a living wage job with a career in the future. And we're going to end up with a 93% success rate on this program. So this, to me, represents the cultural shift that has to occur away from workforce investment boards that are really funding nonprofits. And then when people need a job, they go to the nonprofit, and the nonprofit teaches them what they know. It doesn't prepare the person for the future of work. So if we're going to change our economy, we've got to change prosperity and equity in the economy. And in order to do that, we have to treat all of our members of our communities like they're inspired assets with a great future. And we need each other to achieve this. So this is one of my favorite things I've done in this job. And, there are thousands of people in the Greater Sacramento community that can do this, that can get to a living wage, and can do it without having to find a way to survive for 4 years through a college. They can do it being a mother. They can do it being a father. And I'm really hoping and looking forward to this program scaling. And I'm looking forward to great disruption in these workforce models, which have been letting people down for too long. So I want to congratulate our graduates and all the participants in the program. Tremendous gratitude for the partnership, and continue to push the envelope and expect more from our community and other communities to provide greater opportunities for people, because we need to be doing that if we want a democracy, if we want a safe community, but we also need to be doing that, just as an act of love and respect for each other. So thank you very much for coming today, and we appreciate everyone's support.